chat now to James Brent-Styan, co-author of the Bosasa Billions. He's in our Cape Town studios for us. And James, a very good evening to you. What was your first thought when you heard of the death of Gavin Watson earlier?
Hi, good evening. Well, we were shocked, obviously. It's a story that you get quite close to when you're writing a book. You speak to several characters, people close to Gavin, the family, people who like him, people who don't like him. So I suppose you get to know these people quite a little bit. So it was a bit of a shock. I mean, it is a tragedy, and there's lots of loved ones who are very sad tonight. But I don't think that we must move away from the fact that there was some other real things at play here as well, and things that will probably now to never be answered.
And I think you have to question the timing of all of this, James, as much as, yes, it could have just been, this is what happened, it could have been an accident. You are aware of the conspiracy theories. Was it suicide? Was there foul play? So many questions. You know the family. You write in your book about an arson charge that dates back all the way to the 80s, suggesting that there might have been a cover-up of some sort. And I'm guessing that you might have done enough research into the family to kind of glean or tell us whether they are capable of such things, whether, Gavin Watson would have been a man capable of doing this to save face or not to have to answer to certain things.
I've been asking myself that question all day, and there's a few things that pop up. The one thing is he wasn't a drinker. The family don't consume alcohol, so he couldn't have been. And this is all speculation, of course. I'm sure there will be a thorough investigation. Please, it's speculation. So, doesn't consume alcohol, very clean living, and very religious. Make no mistake, grew up in rural Eastern Cape, Somerset West. Father was a lay preacher with the 4 sons, of which Gavin was the eldest, and Cheeky Watson, the rugby star, was the youngest. So very religious, and that's where the wording of cult comes from. Ran the business along lines that could be described as being cultish. Had prayer sessions in the mornings for 2 hours. If you didn't attend, that was a problem. It became a problem. Flew in pastors from around the world to come and hold these elaborate prayer sessions where Gavin would lying on the ground in front of them. So strange things like that, which also could be referred to as being cultish, I suppose. But one could argue that being as religious as that, one could question whether one would commit suicide or think of something like that. I don't know what his frame of mind was. I would assume he was under increased pressure. I mean, he's really been getting hammered from all sides at the moment. Yeah. There's multiple investigations going on, and frankly, his room for running around was getting smaller and smaller. So one doesn't know what his state of mind really was, and there's many questions that remain to be answered, and the timing of this certainly is very questionable.
And just before he was due to go before a tax inquiry tomorrow as well. But you have to wonder then, I mean, this all just involves money, James. It's just about money. It's not like you're accused of murder or anybody said you've done something like that.
No,
surely this is something that, whatever it was, I would just imagine, was something that would have blown over in a couple of years. Would it be worth putting yourself and your family through this?
Yeah.
That's the question we have to ask, taking us back to Brett Kebbel as well.
Hi, Yuveka. I agree and disagree. I don't think it was just about money. This is the difference here. It's also about power and influence. And if you look at the names of the people linked to Bosasa, between 4 and 6 million rand in cash bribes were being paid out on a monthly basis. There was evidence to that fact at the Zondo Commission. Video evidence showing Mr. Watson packing bags of cash used to allegedly pay bribes, audio recordings, documentary evidence, various things that are very hard to argue against, implicating him directly. But the question is, did he live this life of a millionaire or a billionaire? No, not necessarily. So it wasn't entirely a surprise to me when I heard he'd been driving a Corolla. He's been, his own supporters and family have said, where is all his money then if he's made so much money? He lives in a modest home. He's got a modest vehicle. Sure, but his detractors would argue that the money's been taken offshore, and others argue that he's For him, it was about the power and the influence. And if you looked at the way that he influenced high-level politicians to the very highest office of this country, and what could possibly have come out if he had to have testified? You know, I'll leave it up to your imagination. I'll mention one thing. He was known, he had no office, he had no computer, he was known to have his name off all the paperwork. So a lot of the things that we really needed to make a case perhaps against certain individuals, we'll never be able to do so.
Yeah, and that would be the question, who has the most to gain if it wasn't just an accident from Gavin Watson not being here anymore. But I suppose that's a question that we'll continue to ask. Thank you very much for your time. James Brent-Styan is co-author of the Bosasa Billions. We will have a Gavin Watson special at 7:30 tonight.